Well, I've just, like you were talking about how people are going to cope, and that's going to result in, substance use or criminality or whatever the case may be. I'm also concerned about the fact of increased apprehensions, children ending up in foster care. And I mean, unfortunately, I think most people are aware that when you go through that system, that also increases the likelihood of substance use disorders, criminality, mental health issues. So it just, I'm really missing the whole point in this. Like it just seems to be the perfect storm to create compounding problems. And there just doesn't seem, how could, 5, 10 years down the road, at the rate we're already going outside of this Roe v. Wade overturning, were they ever going to get in front of it? And now we're throwing this in the mix. And it just, I've just so mind blown. Like, how did this ever make sense? And then you have Coney Barrett making stupid comments like, oh, just, drop the kid off at an adoption agency or at the fire hall. There's all these wonderful Christian families that would adopt. But like, I'm sorry, that's my own personal opinion and my own personal rant. And I don't know how many people share that opinion, but that just seems to be so incredibly out of touch. Like Nero watching the city burn and in awe of how beautiful the fire is. Like, come on, people.
Mhm. Yeah, great. Those are great point. Those are great points. We have a foster care system in the U.S. that's strained beyond belief, and now we're going to increase that need exponentially. And what are the outcomes going to be? Just like you just very aptly, said, criminality, substance use disorders, mental illness. Those are going to be the hallmarks of what's coming. And yeah, it's we're going to see it. We're going to see it in the numbers. And you know, someone said this to me a while ago and years ago, and I really don't like this statement, but people are going to die, you know, and sometimes, it seems like the only way to make for society to see a change is for people to die. And, unfortunately, it feels like that's where we are in the US right now.
Yeah. How long do you think it'll take before we see the full effects of this decision? And what do you think those effects will look like?
Years, maybe 5, 10 years before we really start seeing big problems again. When you think back to the war on drugs, you're talking about something in the 70s that really started showing big issues in the late 80s and 90s. So I think we're going to be talking about similar time frames, 5, 10 years. More, there's going to be a bigger gap in the haves and haves not. There's going to be a huge, I shouldn't say huge, there's going to be a big increase in the people who are well below the poverty line. You're going to see increase in mental illness. You're going to see an increase in violence of women too, which you don't hear people talk about. But when you look at, like I said, this study, when you look at what happens in other countries, the Philippines, Poland, you see an increase in violence on women, and
Why is
whether
that?
that's
Why,
because
why do you, yeah.
I haven't heard good reasoning. I think it probably is related to, again, the person who's trying to keep the wife or the girlfriend to get them pregnant so that they'll stay with them, who's already abusive, right? And is trying to keep that person with them. I think some of it is people are going to get pregnant and their men partners are not going to want to have anything to do with a kid. So, some of them will leave, others will be violent and, try to end the pregnancy.